Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are reunited in New York, but is it enough to get the Jets over the top? Is it enough to even get the Jets in the playoffs? Also, the Jets are flattening the Guardians, and Josh Allen has a new weapon of his own. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Less than 12 hours after our pal John Butchko from Locked On Jets told us he thought the New York Jets should be sellers, not buyers, as we approach the trade deadline, the New York Jets bought. Of course they did. Davante Adams is coming to New York, and John is shaking his head. He joins me now. John, regardless of the wisdom of this move for a second, this seemed inevitable in a lot of ways. The least surprising trade, the least surprising superstar trade I can remember, honestly.
Well, you know, one way to guarantee the Jets will do something is for me to say it's a bad idea before it happens, because there's one thing I've learned in the 30 plus years I've watched the Jets is whatever I think is they should not do is the thing they will inevitably do. Yeah, I mean, look, I think like the first rumblings of this started last year when Aaron Rodgers was injured. People were talking, you know, will they make a trade for Davante Adams?
Yeah.
You know, I think one thing, and, you know, maybe I'm wearing my conspiracy hat right now. Aaron Rodgers threw a big interception in the fourth quarter of that game last night. And in his post-game press conference, he said Mike Williams ran the wrong route. And he kind of, if you're watching it, I mean, it was kind of clear he was blaming Mike Williams for the interception. Is it an accident that just hours later the Jets trade for Davante Adams? You know, I guess that's an open question.
Yeah, Davante Adams was in the building Tuesday morning in Florham Park, New Jersey. Like, in order to make the logistics of that work, he would have had to have been on a plane like immediately after the game, like with the time change and the 5.5 hour flight or whatever it is. Like that had to have been the timeline. So I don't even know if you've got a tinfoil hat on there, John. We talked about the loss yesterday. So what is the gain here for the Jets? What are they getting at this point in Davante Adams' career? And I think we have to say at this point in Aaron Rodgers' career, after another 2-interception game when he throws the game-clinching interception.
I think that what they're gaining is a receiver who's got experience with Aaron Rodgers. If you've watched the Jets early in the season, there have been some miscommunications. You know, Aaron Rodgers plays differently from a lot of other quarterbacks. He improvises a lot with where he throws the ball. He always wants his receivers to be looking back at him. There were miscommunications with Garrett Wilson early in the season. Really, only in the last game and a half do I think they've started to get on the same page. Mike Williams and it's been an ongoing issue. And I think Mike Williams is going to be the guy that gets phased out. There were already rumors the Jets are going to look to trade him. My issue with this is this team is 2-4 right now. And it's not like you look at this team and you say, you know what, if they were just good at receiver, team would be off to the Super Bowl. This is a team with issues on the defensive line. Right? Look, you saw that game where they just got pushed around. And then one of the stories of the season is the Jets have been bad as a run defense. Yeah. They haven't gotten to the passer consistently. And the offensive line's an issue. You know, Tyron Smith has not been Tyron Smith's not been as good as advertised. Morgan Moses, who look, I love the trade for Morgan Moses, but that hasn't really worked out. Both tackle positions have been an issue. Olu Fashanu, I like him. I think he's got a bright future, but he has not looked ready when he stepped into the lineup for Moses when Moses was injured. So Davante Adams doesn't fix the issues on this team. I mean, yeah, he makes the receiving group better. You have a receiver who's on the same page with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't feel like you trade for Davante Adams, you know, a couple months before he turns 32, unless you think he's a guy that puts you over the top. And I just don't see this. I don't see that move putting the Jets over the top right now.
The glass half full view of this trade, and I can't believe I'm the one on this show about to make this case, but I am. You look at the schedule. It's workable here. If you think 9-8 can get you in the playoffs in the AFC, and look, we don't know, tiebreakers and all that stuff has got to be sorted out. But with the way the Dolphins look this season, we know what the Patriots are like. They've got some games against teams that have struggled so far this season. We'll see where the Rams are when they play them. It's not a brutal schedule down the stretch.
It's not, but this team hasn't looked like any of the way the Jets have played. I don't think any of those games are guaranteed wins right now. To get to 10 wins, they have to go 8-3 the rest of the way. And I don't think we've seen as much as the record's 2-4. It's just the overall caliber of their play. I have not seen a team that makes me believe that it's capable of going 8-3 over the final 11 games. And the other issue is, we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks when I've been on the show, is how's Rodgers going to be when November, December comes along? He has not responded to these hits. Yeah, he's not responded to these hits well. He's been open about how it's tougher for his body to recover. We're 6 games into the season. I don't think that's going to get better. So, and look, I think the other aspect of this, the points you made are good points, Pete, but just think about where we are right now. We're talking about, well, maybe there's a path to sneak into a 7 seed. I mean, it's a very different discussion than we were having 6 weeks ago about this Jets team.
Stay up to date on the New York Jets all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Jets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Guardians are happy to be headed home because the Yankees made sure they're going home sad. Before we get to that, Tom Brady officially owns the Raiders, and we're not talking about the Tuck rule. Hey, NFL fans, you can get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, as we head into the meat of the NFL season. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, speaking of the middle, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. You can take aim at week 7 in the NFL, the first game of the week between the Broncos and Saints. Has New Orleans as home dogs. FanDuel has the Broncos 2.5-point favorites in this one. FanDuel has zero faith in these offenses too. The total is set at 36.5. That is, if you didn't know, that's low. That's like almost Iowa football low. So what are you waiting for? That's FanDuel.com to get started. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Who once knocked the Raiders out of the playoffs with one of the most controversial calls in NFL history will now be part of the decision-making. Tom Brady's purchase of a small share of the Las Vegas Raiders has been approved. Mark Davis spoke on Brady and even referenced the Tuck rule, saying he did admit that it was a fumble. So those are important aspects of the situation. We're just really proud to have him as a partner. Davis declined to provide details on Brady's role with the Raiders out of respect for Brady's job as a broadcaster for Fox. Davis said one of the sticking points in the 17-month process was Brady's dual role as broadcaster and potential team owner. That, if you look into the details of it, what Brady is not allowed to do now that he is a team owner, it looks like a point-for-point job description of what a broadcaster is going to have to do. So I'm not sure where this leaves Tom Brady and Fox Sports. Cam Akers is once again a Minnesota Viking. This is now the second time in 12 months the Vikings have traded for Akers. The Vikings will send a conditional 2026 6th-round pick to the Texans in exchange for a conditional 7th-round pick in 2026. Akers started 2 games this season for the Texans in place of injured Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce, including one against the Vikings in Week 3. He rushed 9 times for 21 yards in that game and totaled 147 yards and 1 touchdown on 40 carries during his time in Houston. And a team that can't afford to lose any offensive lineman looks like it's going to lose its best one for quite a while. New York Giants left tackle Andrew Thomas will miss an extended period of time with a foot injury, according to reports. The 25-year-old Thomas has a potential Lisfranc injury and is still considering other options, including surgery, rehab, all of those options right now, still up in the air on what he will decide. There is a concern, of course, that it is season ending. The injury occurred in the third quarter of Sunday night's 17-7 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals at MetLife Stadium. Aaron Judge did what Aaron Judge does. The bullpen closed the door. The New York Yankees are sending the Cleveland Guardians back to Cleveland, down 0-2. Stacey Getsoulias from Locked On Yankees joins me now. And Stacey, it did seem like the Yankees kind of night when a infield pop fly that should be a routine play somehow hits the dirt and scores a run for New York. But then, late in the game, they have a pickoff at second and then a double. And you're just sort of like, you can't waste these opportunities. How do you ultimately land on what happened and what went right for the Yankees in game 2?
They were lucky that Cleveland was sloppier than they were. honestly. And Cleveland's been sloppy and just not right the past 2 games, because with all the wild pitches in the first game and then the defensive struggles in the second game, and just, I don't know, it's a weird played series so far. Like, it just, I mean, the Yankees have had issues like that all season, with bad base running mistakes. Their defense has been pretty tight, though, I have to say. But the base running mistakes are just, you got to be there mentally during a playoff game. You can't make mistakes like this because, they could have been up 5-2 instead of 4-2. And then if Judge hit his home run, it'd be 7-2. And then they wouldn't have to bring in Luke Weaver. And it's a whole chain of events that happen because of that. So, yeah.
Judge had just 1 RBI in the playoffs. He hits the sacrifice fly to make it 3-0. And then, as you mentioned, hits the bomb. Is this the cover coming off for him, or what have you seen from him so far in the postseason?
Well, the thing that's encouraging is he's not striking out all the time. He's making contact. He's just not hitting the ball hard enough. If he was going up and flailing away and just looking awful at the plate and striking out 4 times a game, then I would think, okay, there's a problem. But I figured he was going to snap out of it at some point. All these guys do. All great hitters do snap out of it at some point. If this bad bit of hitting happened in the regular season, no one would notice it. But because it's on a national stage, everyone notices, oh my God, he hasn't hit a home run in the entire postseason, when the entire postseason's only 5 games for him so far. So
yeah, it was a battle of aces that didn't really have it in this game.
No.
And Garrett Cole, if you're going to win a game like this when you don't have your best pitching, are you going glass half full on this? Like, hey, it's great to win when your best pitcher doesn't have it. Or are you going, hey, I might have some reservations about Garrett Cole if he's going to take the bump later in the series?
No, I'm not worried about Garrett Cole, because he tends to have a bad start, then have a good start, because he gets so angry about having the bad start that he studies film and he does all this stuff and he comes out looking strong, because that's what happened against KC. He had an iffy start in his first start against Kansas City, and then he completely shut them down in his second outing. So I'm not worried about Garrett Cole at all. And this is the type of game you need to win. When your ace is not being an ace, you need to find other ways to win. You also need the other team to kind of help you out a little bit, but it worked out.
Yeah, only 2 hits allowed by the bullpen once Cole went out. So if that's going to be the bad part of your pitching, like you're in a pretty good position there. Is the bullpen part of this, to your mind, sustainable?
I think so. If Boone manages
confidence.
But I think so. If Boone manages it correctly, as long as he doesn't, and this is going to be an old reference for Yankee fans if they're watching this, if he doesn't Quantrill and Gordon, Holmes and Weaver, they should be okay.
Say more about what you mean about that for those who do not get the reference.
Back in 2004, my favorite year as a Yankee fan, Joe Torre, I'm surprised Paul Quantrill and Tom Gordon's arms didn't fall off because of how much he used them throughout the regular season and the playoffs. That famous 19-8 game in the 2004 ALCS when the Yankees were beating up on the Red Sox, going up 3-0, he brings Tom Gordon in while the Yankees are up nearly 10 runs. And everyone's thinking, why? And what happened the rest of the series? The bullpen couldn't do stuff. They gave up walk-off hits and everything else. So I don't want Boone to do that to Weaver and Holmes. And I wasn't too thrilled about Weaver coming into the game with a 4-run lead. I understand it's the playoffs. You want to go up 2-0. I felt Ian Hamilton should have started the 9th. And if he got into trouble, then Weaver could come in. But most people were saying, there's an off day. It's okay. I just don't want him to ruin their arms before a possible next series.
Stay up to date on the New York Yankees all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Yankees on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Josh Allen has a new toy in Buffalo. Guys, ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom, like Amari Cooper might be a boost for the Buffalo Bills? It's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing you can get ready and stay ready whenever you're in the mood. Yeah, see where I'm going with this. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if they're appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. The Buffalo Bills acquired Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns on Tuesday. Locked On Bills host Joe Marino sees this as the final piece to the Bills' passing game.
The impact on the offense is so straightforward. You get a route winner. You get a guy on the perimeter that can get a bucket. And respectfully, the Bills just didn't have that. And they made this calculated choice to have this everybody eats mentality. And in some ways it's good and helps, but what's missing is route winners on the outside. And teams were playing cover one, man coverage, middle of the field close, saying, beat us on the outside. We don't think you can do it. We don't think you can do it. And so this great idea of, hey, you got some great middle of the field options in Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. They're going to be good, helpful pieces for you. Curtis Samuel's your X factor. And then you got this group of big body dudes and Keon Coleman and Marcus Valdes-Scantling and Mac Hollins that are going to play on the boundary, and you'll be able to win 50-50 balls on the perimeter to make teams for paying for clogging up the middle of the field. Well, folks, guess what wasn't happening? That. They didn't have the true perimeter threats to be the offense that they're designed to be. And I'm excited for the direction of the offense now that you've seen Ray Davis, and I think how he can complement James Cook moving forward. Kincaid and Shakir, nice players. Now you add Cooper to this mix, and you upgrade significantly. Think about that for a second. Who's the Bills' best outside receiver? Take your pick. Is it Keon Coleman? Is it Mac Hollins? Does it matter? They're not better than Amari Cooper. You obviously got a lot better there. And so all of those players just go down the ladder, down the pecking order. And so you're looking at a top three passing game that now features Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir and Amari Cooper. And then it's like, okay, you do have Curtis Samuel. You do have James Cook. You do have Keon Coleman.
This is what you can do when you have a super duper star quarterback. Is your team coming into the season does not have to be your team. You wait a little bit. You see how it shakes out. What are you getting from Keon Coleman? What are you getting from Curtis Samuel? Has Dalton Kincaid taken that next step? What about James Cook? How much can you lean on him? What is Josh Allen able to do on his own? Oh, Khalil Shakir. He's a really good player. But then who knows what can become available? Maybe it's Davante Adams. Maybe it's Amari Cooper. Maybe the Brown season goes haywire and you have an opportunity to acquire a player like this, and you don't have to spend big money in free agency or use your draft capital to move up. You can just stay patient, and this can happen. And the only reason you can stay patient, and this seems counterintuitive, is because you have a quarterback who's going to make you a contender simply by virtue of being himself, by being as good as he is. But it allows you to be patient, see what shakes out, and then you land Amari Cooper for a third-round pick, and he completes an already dynamic offense. And finally, it was an emotional night in Columbus on Tuesday when the Blue Jackets paid tribute to their late star, Johnny Gaudreau, and his brother, Matthew, at their home opener against the Florida Panthers. The Blue Jackets raised a banner to the rafters in Gaudreau's memory as fans cheered. Both teams stick-taped the ice in the traditional hockey salute, and his family looked on. And before the puck dropped, this team stood still as 13 seconds ran off the clock and his left wing position vacant. 13, Johnny Gaudreau's number. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, will the Saints get back on the winning track? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.